so excited to have you here today. I'm so excited to be able to speak. I'm honored that Casey invited me to be part of the Blaze Virtual Summit. And I love working with women. I love helping women. And I'm hoping that what I have to say will be relevant for you and can help and add value to your life. I'm going to talk today about recovering from and preventing burnout. So I'm going to share my slides with you. All right, so here's my slides. And as I mentioned, preventing and recovering from burnout is the topic today. Who am I and why am I here speaking with you? I am a therapist. I am a leadership coach. I'm a consultant, and I'm an international speaker. I've been working with women for over 25 years. In the therapy world, I worked as a director of an eating disorder and self-injury programs. I designed them, I managed the teams, I worked with the patients, and I put together the curriculum for the program and did presentations about eating disorders and self-injury and suicide. And primarily my population, what people I worked with, were about 90% female. My coaching focuses on empowering women, improving leadership skills, and helping women step into their own power. So as a women's leadership and empowerment coach, I support women who want to be seen, heard, to believe in themselves, to step into their own power, to break out of the boxes that people, society, loved ones may have put us in on what our expectations are, and be able to live our lives the way we want to, confidently and for ourselves. All right, so some of these headlines you may have seen. Black women are experiencing more burnout during the pandemic and racial reckoning. Women are bearing the brunt of the economic and social fallout of COVID-19. From insights to action, women typically earn less and hold less secure jobs than men. The burden of unpaid care and domestic work exploded, both for women and men. But even before COVID-19, women spend an average of 4.1 hours per day performing unpaid work, while men spent 1.7 hours. That means women did 3 times more unpaid care work than men worldwide. Both men and women report an increase in unpaid work since the start of the pandemic, but women continuing to shoulder the bulk of that work. I don't think anyone will be surprised by that. Women's paid labor and women-run businesses will be the hardest hit. Generally, 70% of health workers and first responders are women, yet they are not paid at par with their male counterparts. At 28%, the gender pay gap in the health sector is higher than the overall gender pay gap, which is 16%. Working mothers has meant balancing full-time employment with childcare and schooling responsibilities. The pandemic induced poverty surge will also widen the gender poverty gap, meaning more women will be pushed into extreme poverty than men. Black women experience the steepest drop in labor force participation and have had the slowest job recovery since January of 2020. The responsibility of caring for sick and elderly family members often falls on women. And with all of that, back to having my therapist hat on, is it any surprise that we have seen an increase over this past, 18, 20, 22 months of anxiety disorders, depression, domestic violence, eating disorders, substance abuse, and suicide, especially in women. We're feeling it. We may want to think that we're okay, but oftentimes we're falling on this. We're on that hamster wheel. We don't know how to get off it, and we feel like we just keep falling. And we get back up, and we keep doing it again, and we can't get ahead. So today, we're going to talk about recovering from burnout. We're going to learn steps to avoid burnout, why we cannot afford not to take care of ourselves, and self-care. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on compassion fatigue. I did want to bring it out though and mention it because if you are in the helping field, if you are a therapist, if you are a healthcare worker, if you are a teacher, you are feeling this. Now, I know this is for women entrepreneurs, but I know sometimes we also have other jobs too, right? So I want to touch base. Compassion fatigue is the emotional residue or strain of exposure of working with those suffering from consequences of traumatic events. We've all been through traumatic events. So even if you're not in any of those fields that I mentioned, you possibly could be feeling some compassion fatigue right now. There's some research, American Institute of Stress is saying that possibly it's not that we're struggling with compassion fatigue. We might be struggling from a concept called empathy fatigue, which is resulting from a state of psychological, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and occupational exhaustion that occurs as one's own wounds are continually revisited by their clients' life stories of chronic illness, disability, trauma, grief, and loss. This could apply to some of you as well, depending upon what area your work is in. Today, we're going to talk about burnout. And burnout is a cumulative process marked by emotional exhaustion and withdrawal associated with workload and institutional stress, not necessarily trauma related. There's this book called the International Classifications of Diseases. Anything you have, it's usually listed somewhere in this book, and it's given a coding number, which is then given to insurance companies for reimbursement. So the ICD-11 says that burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Now look at the bottom of the slide. It's from the World Health Organization of May 2019. We hadn't gone through what we've just gone through yet. I don't know if it's changed. It takes a little while for them to update their stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if they might change this definition a little bit. I mean, burnout is going to be characterized by 3 dimensions. Feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion. You can get as much sleep in the world and still feel tired. It's beyond a tired of sleep. It's more like a soul tired. Increased mental distance from one's jobs or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job. I'm going to share some personal about me as well as I go through. I did go through burnout, and I didn't even realize I was in burnout until I was out of the job. I just I could not figure out why I couldn't get my act together to get the work done. I had too much work for one person to do. However, looking at this increased mental distance from one job, I would wake up in the morning and go, I hate my life. Before I even got out of bed, what a way to start the day. And then reduce professional efficacy. You just can't get it done. You can't do it. You can't be as effective and as efficient as you would have been in the past. Burnout refers specifically to phenomenon in the occupational context. And this says, again, WHO, World Health Organization, May 2019, should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of our life. Now, I think that's changed with COVID. I think that's changed with this pandemic because many women's lives merged. They became employee, maybe they started doing their own business, maybe they got unemployed, they were trying to do remote learning with their children, they were doing care for their family members, usually under the roof of their homes. If you were in an area that was being on lockdown, we didn't call it lockdown, we called it staying home, right? We were quarantining to make sure everyone was safe. So I think that it's not as cut and dry as just occupational context because our lives and our world merged. This, I think, sounds in a negative sense that it's blaming us. Burnout is resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. We may not have known how to manage. We may not have had that skill set. We may not have had an environment that was open to us being able to do that. Okay. So some signs of burnout: feeling negative, overly critical, I mentioned the exhaustion, even though you get plenty of sleep, or maybe you're not sleeping. Maybe you're up at night and those wheels are turning and your heart's beating and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get everything done, which leads to the next one, increased anxiety, racing thoughts, loss of interest. You're numb. Things that used to bring you joy don't. You just don't have it in you. You feel inadequate. You're irritable. You have headaches. You're physically ill. Does this sound familiar to anybody? You feel like you're juggling all these things, but you're not getting anywhere. So I'm going to go over some things that we can do. And big one is de-stressing. Do you de-stress? Do you know how to de-stress? Or do you just keep plugging forward? I was teaching this on a daily basis. I would sit there when I was doing a family session for some of the kiddos that I worked with, and I would tell their moms, especially the single moms, you need to go out and do something fun for yourself. And in my head, a single mom was like, when would I do this right now? Right? So I wasn't being authentically myself. I didn't have the bandwidth. I was in survival mode. So how do you de-stress? An exercise routine is a really good way to do so, unless you have medical issues that might do complications for that. I always add that in because of my background working with eating disorders. Sometimes we're on restriction. You're not allowed to be doing this right now. But what could you do? Can you do, and I'm not talking about, some hardcore exercise, even moving our body, stretching our bodies, going for a walk. I love to swim. Swimming is my thing because I have bad knees and it's not, it doesn't pound on my knees, so it helps my knees. Also, no one can find me while I'm in the pool, right? There's no way, there's no phone. So it's so nice because I get that time just for me and I can't overthink things because I have to be focusing on breathing and in my strokes. Otherwise, I'm going to gulp the pool water. Meditation doesn't have to be long. There's these apps called Calm app, and I think there's an app called Headspace that you can do for just a few minutes. You don't have to do a long meditation. I have gotten to the point, I like Oprah's and Deepak Chopra's app. What I've done though, because I bought one of their programs, they oftentimes give like free, like 7 days, 21 days meditations for free. So if you can get on their mailing list, you can find that out. But I like to do the meditation. I make sure I set my alarm because I have actually drifted off into sleep afterwards. And so if I have an appointment, I want to make sure I'm not sleeping through it. Journaling is a good way to release. It's a good way to get things out. Now, if you're a person who likes to journal all negative, what I recommend if you reread your stuff is to go back and write it in another color ink and challenge those thoughts. Now, for example, if you're a negative journaler or something like, I hate my life sucks, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I'm never going to amount to anything. If you reread that, you're just going to reinforce that. If you challenge it with another color ink, either on a different piece of paper or fold that page in half, challenge those. I'm not a loser. I have a lot going on. This is what I'm doing in my life. And that will help with that thinking process and it will help you start feeling better. Music. I'm a big music person. I love music. I love dance parties. Most songs are 3 minutes long. Moving around, dancing, that gets our dopamine going. That makes us happier. It gets us in a better mood. I know it's an old one, but my favorite is Rihanna, Dancing to the Music. I still love that song. I had it on earlier today. If I need to get myself focused, if I need to get in a better mood, if I need to get my energy up, that's usually my go-to song. Laughing. There's people in our lives that help bring us down. There's people in our lives that help us laugh, or laughing watching TV, or watching a funny show, or watching or reading, some of these tweets that they have each week, funny tweets from the week. Anything to get you laughing, because again, it gets your dopamine going and it helps you feel better. Breathing. I'm all about breathing. Did you know that when we get stressed and tense, we tense up and we hold our breath? That does exactly opposite of what we want and need to do. So on this slide, I have an example of square breathing. I'm going to explain it and then I'm going to do it. Okay, so I have 5. You can do 4, you can do 8. It's what works best for you. So you're going to inhale through your nose for a count of 5. You're going to hold for a count of 5. You're going to exhale for a count of 5. And then you're going to hold that for another count of 5 and then repeat. All right, so I'm going to do that right now. And then repeat it. And I'd like to go in through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. And, if you can, if you're not around a lot of people, go, just let it out. You can feel it in your body. I do this when I'm driving too. I live in the Chicago area. Our roads are a little crazy sometimes. And so I can do it to the point where I'm like, so somebody in the car next to me might not be able to see it. And I also don't care if they do. Or if you're in a meeting and you're getting stressed out, it's a good way to do that. And then I also like to do grounding techniques. And there's a few different grounding techniques out there. Some like to say, go outside and put your feet in Mother Earth, connect with nature. Actually put your feet on the grass or in the sand or wherever you might be. Another is using our 5 senses. And this one takes a little bit more practice because it's not something that many of us are used to doing. So we use our 5 senses. So right now I have a bottle of water and I'm for touch, right? It's cool to my touch. It'll warm up over time, but that can help ground me and focus me on where I'm at right now. The other one, sight. I like to have a picture. I have one of my favorite pictures just in the peripheral vision right here, that if I needed to look away and ground myself and look at it, I can do so. Taste. What do I taste in my mouth? This is a good time maybe to pop a mint. I happen to have some right here at my desk. Right? I like peppermint, spearmint. You get to pick what you like. Hearing. What do I hear? Okay, my heat just turned on and I have a ceiling fan going. So I hear that right now. All right, what did I miss? Smell. I like to have either a candle and I can smell the scent of the candle, or I like to get that lotion, a hand lotion that I like to smell and put it on and just breathe it in. Doing that, did I get all 5? I think so. Doing that can help ground us to the moment. It helps us slow down and be present to where we're at right now. I'm looking at that picture. It's in my office. I love that picture. I've got my water bottle. It's cool to my touch. I can hear the heat. I'm here in my office. I have my mint. I have my hand lotion. Right. So I have had some women put together a little bag. When you buy makeup, sometimes you get those little free bags. They've put together like a travel size hand lotion, some mints, some like a soothing stone for touch. So whatever it is that you find that's best for you can be helpful as you're working on grounding techniques. Boundaries. All right. So I don't know how professional SpongeBob is, but I liked the graphic, and boundaries it is. Do you know what your boundaries are? Are you okay with boundaries? Many women struggle with boundaries. We were taught, most of us were taught to be there for other people. And when we set boundaries, we're not there for other people. We're there for ourselves. So kind of depending upon what you learned, you're doing the opposite. What are your boundaries? And for work, what are your hours that you work? Do you have a time where you turn off and when you're working? And I'm not saying we have to have 100% 50-50 balance, right? I think our world of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is over. I've had some women talk to me that they had a supervisor that expected them to be answering emails at 11 p.m. at night because they're all working from home anyways. He's not paying them to be doing that. It's 11 p.m. at night. Why are they on their computers working for a boss? If you're doing your own business, right, as an entrepreneur, you can easily get caught up. You can easily get lost. especially if you're passionate about what you're doing. I recommend having some time where we have downtime. What are your responsibilities? Are you saying yes to so many things and not saying yes to yourself because you're depleted and you've given all your yeses away? Do you continually join committees, meetings, organizations, whatever it may be, without necessarily knowing what your clear goals are? There's a book called How Women Rise by Sally Hagelson and Marshall Goldsmith. And there is a part in that book, I recommend it was a quick read. There was a part in that book talks about what we've done to get to where we are isn't going to help us get to where we want to go. So we have to change things up. But this woman had a supervisor, a male supervisor, who had asked her to be on a committee. Wasn't something she had thought about being before, but she took the opportunity because she thought it was going to help advance her. And one day he told her, yeah, I knew you wouldn't say no to me and I don't want to do it. So look in alignment. Am I joining these committees? Am I part of these meetings? Are these for me? Or is there another reason I'm doing it? Will this help me? Now, sometimes if you do have a job still where you have an employer or a supervisor, you might not be able to say no. But look at it. Is this aligned with what you want? Do you have any kind of work-life separation? Who has access to you and when do they have access to you? And when do you stop work and work calls? This has been one that I've worked on a lot. Before I left my director position at the Behavioral Health Hospital, I was working 6 days a week, 10 to 16 hours a day. I was exhausted. So rein that in right away because that was not helping anything. Who has access to me? My phone, no one can get through between 11 p.m. at night and 7 a.m. in the morning except for my son. He's the only one that can get through to me. I need my sleep. I'm at a stage right now, my son is an adult, so I can do this, right? But other people, you might need to have a little bit more flexibility. When do you stop work and work calls? I am a night person. I like to work. My best work is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Now, if I have early morning meetings or consulting work, I have to adjust, of course, but I don't take work calls late at night. I end at about 8 o'clock. I am also still doing therapy. So my last therapy session will be 7 p.m. so that I'm not into all night. I need time to unwind. 10 o'clock, I get a second wind of energy. Right? So if I can keep working on stuff I want to work on, fine, but it's my time. Unplugging. Do you ever do an electronic detox? How long have you gone without your phone, your iPad, your computer? I did a retreat a few years back, and oh my gosh, probably 5 years now. And we went the whole week without having any electronics. I was having worry ahead of time. Now my son was in college, so I checked with my mom, my aunt to make sure it was all covered in case something happened. He had a number in case he needed to find me. But I was having withdrawal at the thought of having what's going through. But it's so good to unplug. Now, a week might be extreme, but can you do this for a few hours? Maybe an hour to start with. And then under boundaries also is your support system. Who is in your support system? Are you everyone else's support? Do you have friends that are supportive of you? And then do you have friends outside of what you do for your work? So if you are an accountant, do you have friends that aren't accountants? It's important for me to have non-therapy friends. It's important for me to have non-coaching friends. I like having those friends as well, but it also helps expand it. I'm not always talking work then. What about your values? Are the things that you're doing, are they connected to your values? Are they in line with your values? Do you know what your values are? Values are our non-negotiables. These are something that you absolutely need to have in your life. Do you know what your top 5 values are? It's helpful to be able to come up with our values so that we can see what we're willing and not willing to tolerate or deal with or put up with or do. The hustle game. There are so many women playing the hustle game, and I feel it, right? We have to. It's back to being on that treadmill. I have to keep going to get ahead. Hustle game leads to burnout. No is a complete sentence. Women also spend a lot of time, oh, I really can't do that. And then we give them a laundry list of why, instead of saying, no, that doesn't work for me right now, but thanks for asking. And I know it's so uncomfortable if you haven't done that before. Do you have time that is family time? Make sure we're having that connection. One of the things, this was pre-COVID, but one of the things that I was just completely baffled by was when I would have individuals come in for treatment for eating disorders and ask about family meals. They weren't having family meals. You know, we had to get this kid to soccer, this kid to dance, this kid to football. I had my own meeting. You know, we didn't have that. So I would recommend, can we at least have one night a week where we have some family time? People didn't know what a family meal was. We need that connection with our families. Now, if you're an adult and some of your family members are toxic, that's a good place to put those boundaries that you don't have to, or you limit your time. And then do you have your own time? Because your time is so important. We need to recharge. We need to get our batteries going. We need to refresh so that we can keep going and doing everything that we love to do. So my values, and I've actually added one, authenticity. I believe in being real. I believe in what you see is what you get. I believe in connection is so important, connecting with other people, being of service, being creative in the sense that when I do my work, I'm working for what that individual needs. I'm not doing a cookie cutter, one size fits all. Inclusion, right? One of the things that I told Casey is that I don't believe any of us are free until all of us are free. I believe inclusion. And also one that I don't have is humor. I use humor a lot in my work. I think we need to. I need to, not we, I need to use humor. It helps me connect. It also helps release when there's some difficult topics that are being discussed. So personal care plan. This is an example of my week from August. If we don't schedule things, it doesn't happen. Have anyone experienced that? I have. If I don't put it down in my calendar, it doesn't work. Now I have 2 calendars going. I like the ease of my Google Calendar on my phone because it's always with me. But I like my paper planner because I feel like I can plan further out and ahead. One thing that's so important when you're working on your calendar is schedule you time. You time, if you can put that in first, and I get it, and everyone's situation will allow that, but I have the purple, that's my time. I like to be able to look at my calendar and go, I don't have enough purple in here. And even in my paper calendar, I will have, you know, I have all these fun markers and my time is in a box in purple. I like the Google Calendar because I can do different colors for different things. Schedule in your family time. What are your non-negotiables? Schedule that in too. Also, make sure we're putting fun down and downtime. You might see on my calendar, I don't have every spot on my calendar filled with a color. It's okay to have that space, that white space where there's nothing there. It doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. Sometimes I might not be. Sometimes I might just be resting and relaxing and slowing down. Other times I might be working on something that I want to work on, or I love to read, so I might be reading a book. Right? So I have my consulting work is in green, light blue is therapy, dark blue is networking, orange, red, those are appointments I have to have. It helps me get a perspective. I don't have enough purple. I need to add more fun in. I need to add more me time in. Or why do I have 3 meetings at one time? Back again, when I was working my way into burnout, it wasn't unusual for me to have 3 meetings at the same time. My schedule looked totally different. I already said I was working 10 to 16-hour days. Those days were filled in. There wasn't any space in there. I'm getting anxious just thinking about it. Self-care is essential in the prevention of burnout. Some people might think self-care is a chore. Actually, it's a gift. It's a gift for us to take care of us. But we need to do self-care or else we will burn out. And that's why the hustle game doesn't necessarily work, because hustle doesn't always include self-care. So a personal care plan, morning routine. What can you do? Some kind of movement, stretching, exercise. It doesn't have to be a lot. I have 3.5 minutes. I have a wonky hip. So in the morning, before I even get out of bed, I have an exercise of stretching that I'm doing for 3.5 minutes. Is there some kind of inspirational reading that you can do? Again, it doesn't have to be hours. It can be a verse. It can be, a quote. Do you have a mantra? No, today's going to be a great day. A meditation. I already talked about the longer meditations, because the Oprah and Deepak Chopra's meditations are about 20 minutes. Abraham Hicks has one that is about 10 minutes. That's today's going to be a good day. I love listening to that. I listen to that when I'm putting on my makeup, getting dressed. It really helps me get focused for the day. The Calm app, I think you can have a couple minute meditations. So if you have less time. I already talked about upbeat, energizing music. Have that dance party, move around. Free journaling. Recommend that, just getting everything, dumping a brain dump from everything that went on. If you had things that could happen in the night, dreams, whatever. If you have thoughts that are limiting your, limiting belief thoughts that are getting in your way of being functional or doing, setting your goals, reaching your goals today, get that out. Mirror work. Mirror work is difficult for some people to start. I encourage it. Stand in front of a mirror. And if you can, make eye contact with the mirror and say really good things about yourself. Good morning, beautiful. It's going to be a great day. The world is blessed to have you here. You're blessed to be here. If you struggle with that, then maybe just look in the mirror, but don't make eye contact. If that really is hard to do, start with 30 seconds and then bump your way up. 45, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Can you do 5 minutes? If we can talk positively to ourselves, we can do so much more. If we can talk to ourselves the way we talk to our best friend, can you imagine how great we'll feel about us? And then breakfast. We need breakfast. Many of us don't like breakfast. Breakfast does not count just as coffee. We need breakfast. We've been sleeping. Breakfast gives our body the energy needs to get our brain functioning, to get our body moving so that we can be alert, we can be on task, we can function. Doesn't have to be a big breakfast, but a breakfast is helpful. Midday routine. Take a break. Many times we think we have to keep moving, right? And that we don't have time. Take a break. You will feel motivated. Go outside for a minute. Whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whether the temp's perfect. Today, cold and dreary. Go outside. Take a breath in. Just breathe in and out outside air. If you can walk around your building, walk around the parking lot, whatever, walk around your house, do that. Move. Again, back to that dance party. I'm all about dance parties. Stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking your water. Appointments, 45, 50 minutes. Can you keep the appointment under an hour so you have a little bit of break time before you go into your next appointment? Eat lunch. Right? We had breakfast to get us started. We need lunch to keep us going. Laugh. Find something funny. Get that dopamine going. Evening routine. Unplug. The experts, say kids should be unplugged from electronics 2 to 3 hours before bed. I know if you have teenagers, they're up all night doing homework, so it might not be as feasible. Us adults, they say we should unplug for about an hour. The light from the computer screens and the phones get our brains going, the brain waves moving, and we have a harder time slowing down to go to sleep. Do some meditation, journal, spend a little bit of time reading. I struggle with that. I'm a binge reader. I just like to start and finish. I get crabby if I get in the way. Life doesn't always work with my binge reading. Can you read just a chapter? Do you have a gratitude journal? I just write things that I'm grateful for the day. And on a bad day, some days I got up, I woke up, and I made it through the day. a good day. I'm grateful for situations, people, experiences, opportunities. I don't limit myself. I just write whatever's on my mind. I am statements. What a great way to end the day. I do this right before I go to sleep. I do my gratitude journal, my I am statements. I am successful. I am beautiful. I am loved. Right? How nice it is to end the day with some positive thoughts, especially if you feel like you've had a barrage of negativity thrown at you that day. Again, all about the food. Make sure we're eating dinner, right? Give us that energy to get through the night. Fulfill our energy needs for what our body is requiring so we can keep doing all the work we're doing. And then spend a little bit of time prepping for tomorrow, because that will help us a lot better the next day. On Fridays, celebrate your wins. One thing women tend to do is we just check off our successes and move on to the next thing, like it's a to-do list. Then when we have a really big wins, we're like, why is that not exciting? So on Fridays, celebrate your wins. What's one thing that went well this week? What is one success you had? Who did you help? What's one thing you're grateful for? And celebrate you. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be acknowledging yourself. Maybe you want to buy yourself some flowers, but acknowledge you and celebrate you, because it's about time we do that. Some don't like the Sunday routine. Find what works best for you, but it can help if we set our weekly goals. Get that daily self-care scheduled in our planners so that we know we're going to take time for ourselves this week. Review the calendar so we know what we have coming on. Do some meal prep so it can make it easier. I'm a big crock pot person because that way everything's ready. And then do you know what you want to wear this week? Kind of give you an idea to gauge yourself so that you're feeling more prepared when the week starts. And then remember, there's no right or wrong way on how you're feeling. And feel your feelings. It's okay to feel our feelings. Selfish isn't a dirty word. You hear it when you go on an airplane. Put on your own oxygen mask first before you can help others. We need that. I am a Schitt's Creek fan. A mother puts her own mask on first. We can't be there for anybody else unless we're taking care of us. So some ways to take care of ourselves. Limit the news. The news is negative. Yes, you might want to tune in. Make sure you're tuning in and having smaller doses. Also look for positive news. There's some of that out there too. Limit your social media. That is a trap that we can get lost in. There's studies out there that's showing that we get into the comparison game and we feel worse about ourselves, just like reading women's magazines. We feel worse about ourselves after we read them because we're comparing ourselves to all these people and their lovely lives. If you have toxic people, unhealthy people, people that you don't like or don't believe in what they're saying, snooze them, unfollow them on social media. Limit your exposure to that. I mentioned feel your feelings. Also know it's okay to be grieving. We've been through a lot. We're still going through it. You may be grieving right now, and that's okay. And then also, one way to take care of ourselves is to do something for someone less fortunate. When we pay it forward, when we give to others, it can help us feel better too. Have some self-compassion for us. Again, I mentioned earlier, talk to yourself as you would your own best friend. Oftentimes we're like, oh, come on, I should have known how to do that, or I didn't do that, or I made too many mistakes. No, self-compassion. Hey, I tried. I gave it my all today. Tomorrow's a new day. Acknowledge that life is different. People keep saying, well, I go back to normal. I don't know what normal is. I often say normal is a setting on the washing machine. Yes, we might not be socializing as much or traveling as much as we used to. Hopefully we can do that again soon. But this is life right now. How can we live it to our fullest and best for us? Stop trying to do it all. That's a good way to get to burnout. We can't do it all. It's okay to delegate. It's okay to outsource. It's okay to say no. And I know I've mentioned this before, but take a break. There's nothing wrong with popping on a show for a half hour and tuning out and then getting back to the real world. Or like I said, reading a book. Take a break. It's okay. We don't have to go, go, go. We're not the hamster wheel. We're human beings, not human doers. So human doer is someone that does things because they need to get that recognition or the accolades or the goal setting. A human being is someone who bees. We're here. We can watch a movie and enjoy it instead of doing 16 other things at the same time. Invest quality time in your relationships. Our relationships won't survive if we don't invest in them, just like us. Engage in activities that you find fulfilling. What brings you joy? How can you incorporate that in your weekly plan? What are new things that you've wanted to try and haven't? Why do you not? Expect less of yourself. Whether you're in strive mode, thrive mode, struggling mode, you're okay. You're where you're at right now, and you can keep moving forward. If you're struggling, make sure you surround yourself with support. Work with a therapist. Again, there's nothing wrong with therapists. Or work with a coach if you don't need a therapist right now. So overall, we want to practice self-compassion. We want to decrease the negative self-criticism. We want to focus on our mindfulness and grounding techniques, being where we're at, being in the moment, being present. Did you know that when we multitask, which I am guilty of, when we multitask, we're actually incorporating less because our brains are so, we don't have the opportunity to be as present and gain as much and learn as much. Have some kind of movement in your life. Supportive network, and do things that bring you joy. Instead of having multitasking and exhausted women be super women, let's applaud those who know how to rest and to say no to others. Okay, we always give people accolades of, oh, they did all this. Well, how about to that woman who took time out for herself because she needed it, and now she feels a lot better. Recovering from burnout takes time. It's not necessarily a quick process. It is possible. And if we incorporate these steps, we can help prevent us from experiencing burnout. I had mentioned at the beginning, I didn't realize I was in burnout till I was no longer at my job. I was exhausted. I just slept because I'd been on that hamster wheel. And I was drinking McDonald's extra large Pepsis. Cokes were my way of coping and surviving. Right? So I had to do a Coke Pepsi detox, which then was also a sugar one. And I learned how to take care of myself and to sleep and to listen to my body. We can do this. We're going against what we've been taught. We're going against what a lot of societal expectations are. Do you know what? Our society and our world's changing so much right now anyways. Let's jump on that bandwagon and take care of it now too. So are you ready to allow yourself to have support, to feel better, to have more energy, to be more present, to take care of yourself, to live like your life and to live your life? If you are, I have a gift, recovering from burnout, a personal care plan. So a lot of what I talked about today is going to be in this workbook for you. I like to have things in one place. I don't know about you. So that's why I put this together. So you can go through some of these steps and put together what it is that you want for your care plan. What do you want your morning, midday, evening routine to look like? What do you want your hours of work to look like if you're in the possible position to be able to do that right now? I know we all have different situations, but what would an ideal workday look like for you, and how might you be able to slowly start to incorporate that? How can you take care of you so that you're there to take care of others? And then this is my contact information, my website, my email, my number. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I have a Clubhouse. I haven't been on Clubhouse for I don't know how long. And then an online calendar if you want to schedule any time to talk to me. So thank you so much. I so appreciate being here with you today. And I hope that this was helpful and that you're able to slowly start to incorporate, if you don't already, some of the self-care routines. All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Awesome. So this is great in that we've gotten a lot of clinical perspective, right? Clinical perspective around how experiences, routines, toxic behaviors, if we be honest, right, can really impact us from a chemical perspective, from a behavioral perspective, right, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to have a Q&A with Dr. Denise. And what I want you to do, what I challenge you to do is think about what Paquita said earlier about proximity, right? To power. We now have proximity with a therapist, a, expert in her field who can really give us insights into things that we might not have had exposure to before. Not all of us have a therapist. Not all of us have ever seen a lot of these vocabulary words such as empathy, fatigue, and other things, right? So be vulnerable in this space. Again, this is protected space. I told y'all before, I'm gonna tell you again, everybody that comes on our turf are here for us, right? Are here to edify Black women, right? They really, really see us and they really care about us. So be vulnerable, right? What questions do you have for Dr. Denise right now around this topic, around burnout, around setting boundaries, around even like chemical imbalances, right? If you're experiencing some things and really want to understand how to decipher it, etc., drop them in the Q&A chat. Garrison, raise your hand to come on the stage. You can come on the stage if you raise your hand, or drop it in the Q&A chat, and I'll answer. We'll ask Dr. Denise. We have her for the next 12 minutes. So exciting! Thank you so much, Dr. Denise. You are so dope for this. Thank you.
Hey everyone, hope you can hear me. First I want to say, Dr. Denise, thank you so much for this workshop. I've been saying God's timing for this entire thing. I randomly found this and I'm glad I hopped on. One question I do have for you is something that I struggle with constantly because of how I was raised is like always being responsible for everybody else and their emotions. And I come from a very close family. So when you talk about setting time for yourself and creating those boundaries, and it's not necessarily toxic, but how do you unlearn not feeling guilty? Because sometimes I feel like, when my mom needs something, I stop what I'm doing to want to help her when I'm over here like exhausted or I have a 4-year-old to take care of, but I feel guilty when I have to say no. So how do you like unlearn that?
Dr. Denise, we can't hear you. I don't know if your mic is not on. Yeah. Can you hear her, Garrison? I can't hear her on my end.
I can't hear her yet.
Yeah, we can't hear you. And no rush. We'll give you a minute, Dr. Denise. Such a good question, Garrison, honestly. I think guilt is something we don't talk about a lot around this stuff, right? Feeling guilty for prioritizing ourselves or saying no. So I'm excited to hear the answer. Paquita says she hears a singing voice in your background. You got a singer in your house?
Yeah, I can show you guys. It's my son.
Hi. Oh, you're so handsome.
My Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah.
I love your Mickey Mouse ears. They're perfect. Okay, no worries. One thing you might want to check, Dr. Denise, I don't know if you have a mic or something set. Oh, she's coming back in. Okay, I think she'll come back in. Let's see if it works this time. We see you. We do see you. We just can't hear you. If you hit the more options button on your screen, I don't know if you're on a phone or a laptop, but you can actually change your audio and video settings. Just in case you need to toggle your mic to a different mic. Like you can choose your phone or your computer, your plug-in mic. Well, Dr. Denise is getting set up. Let me make sure she's still here before I say this. Yeah, she's gonna get me. There is another therapist that we have in the house that is super dope. Super dope. Her name is Crystal McDowell. So Crystal, if Dr. Denise can't get her sound together, I'd love to put you on the spot for your perspective on this question. Let's see though. And I know you know how to hit the raise a hand button from our Wind Down Wednesdays. Crystal did the Blaze Business Intensive, you guys. She top performer, like killing it. Is really she has really been a model student. I'll say that. She's killing it, or has killed it. All right, so because we have 7 minutes left and we have another question, Crystal, I would love it if you could come to the stage. Could you hit the raise hand button? Yeah, see, this is my girl right here. Okay, Garrison, Crystal's coming up right now.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm sorry, y'all. I missed the question. My grandma had just called and I couldn't answer the phone. So I
No
missed the
worries.
question.
Thank you.
What was the question?
Thank you for hopping on the stage. This is building leaders and accepting zero excuses, y'all. Right? When you stay ready, you don't gotta get ready. Okay. The question was, and Garrison, feel free to add on anything in the chat if I miss anything off. But she's saying like she knows she needs to set boundaries, but when she's dealing with sometimes her mom or people she loves, right, have expectations or have asks, and she's burned out a lot of the time, right? And she has her own 4-year-old, so she feels, I will say the word guilty, kind of setting those boundaries and saying no. So she's asking, like, how do you set boundaries when people that you love expect things for you and you don't want to let them down?
I know that one firsthand. And the way I view boundaries is an element of self-care and self-love. Boundaries is self-care. Boundaries is self-love, because you have to, well, I tie it into self-preservation. You're more preserving yourself. So if you're not well, if I can't, if you're, I wish we would view mentally our mental illnesses as our physical illnesses. Because if your arm is broken, you physically can't cook all day long. If your arm, you can't drive here, you can't do this, you can't take it. But if your heart and your soul and your spirit and your energy is heavy, you won't be your best self for them. So in my experiences, I've had boundaries set from the beginning, what I will and what I won't do. I will show up for you when I can. I won't put you above my needs. And I know that sounds so mean. It sounds so hurtful to your mom, to your grandma, but it has to happen, because if not, it all goes downhill. It all really just kind of like, it kind of just it's a cycle. Like, okay, so I want to serve grandma, serve mama, serve my child, serve my husband. Everybody gets served, and then you're last on the list, and then it's like, okay, what's up for me? Who's serving me? Who's there for me? So the boundaries are like a fence around your heart. They're protecting you. And so if even when it does hurt, the guilt does come in, the mom guilt, that's real. But just know that I'm doing this so I can heal myself to be my best self for you. And that happens a lot, especially with mothers who want to be super mom and super wife and super sister. And it's like, go sit down somewhere. No, you don't have to do all that. Like,
Literally sit down.
you
Yeah.
cannot do that. Like, why are you doing the most right now? Do you know how much healthier and healed you will feel if you really just take your time and do what you can and not try to serve everybody and not try to like be present and like with everyone who calls your phone, not answer every call. That's my big one. I answer all the calls. I stopped doing that. D&D is my best friend now. I can't be there for everybody because me, I'm single with no kids, so they think I have all the time in the world, which I low key kind of do. But I don't want to give it all to y'all. Like I do want to sleep, some
Yeah.
time for myself. So I definitely am very stringent about boundaries and how I protect my heart and my energy and myself because as a counselor, you know, I have clients, but I also have friends. And my friends sometimes confuse that. I'm like, nope, hold on. This is getting too deep. Here's a referral. I'm not about to do this right now.
That's deep.
Here's a referral out because I know where you're going with this. And although I can handle it, I choose not to in this moment because
That's deep.
that's too much. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mama. And y'all, this is coming from an expert, right? Crystal is telling you that even before you get to the point of burnout, like you just already know what your limits are. And you're like, I can, but I'm not, right? And that goes back to what Dr. Denise was saying, in that you go ahead and prioritize your 5 things. You choose your 5 things up front, is what she said. And then you know these are the things that have boundaries across. So you know that up front, right? You can even articulate it to your people. And Crystal just said it. Like, yes, it probably will be an awkward conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had, right? And everybody knows Garrison doesn't play about her self-care time on Sunday, or Garrison doesn't play about her retreat away for a month on what, you know, like, I think that's super powerful. Love it, love it, love it. And another question. I'm sorry, Crystal, but this is good rep, sis, right? Come on now.
Your invitation was beautiful. Like the burnout piece, I think you said my soul is. I was like, ooh, I felt that. I've been there. When your soul is tired inside, like you can't physically give anymore. Like I was like, ooh, my old job had me like that, and I'm out. But like I know how that feels, and I'm recovering from burnout right now. I'm still healing. It's not done. It's still a process.
That's real. That's real. That's real. I'm gonna get one more question in here, and then we'll have a DJ set, y'all. Because this is very potent, right? It's a lot of information to digest. Kudos to y'all for showing up. Y'all are in proximity to power, right? And that's important, so it can plant seed so that if they grow later. The question is, how would you recommend managing and overcoming generational burnout? Wow. Those unhealthy, toxic traditions that we have been conditioned to just do. From Nina.
That's a good one. So I like Dr. Denise's personal plan. Was a personal self-care plan or personal care plan? That is ideal. Like I want that when you finish that. I need that for my because now we're talking about recreating new patterns and recreating new norms and breaking generational curses. Essentially, like that's some work. That's not going to be no walk in the park. That takes time to actually change your thought pattern on how you view being a mother, how you view being a working mother or a working person. Like you're challenging yourself to create new behaviors because all you've known so far is work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. It's all you do. You just show up, you work, you just go to sleep, eat, cook, like you're going through the motions. But to change your entire thinking pattern and like how you were kind of raised to think how it's how we just do this because who else will do it? That works. That requires a lot of inner work. Right. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cute. It's going to be like, ooh, why she's sitting down or why she's not serving her husband? Like, you know, it's going to be a lot of judging and a lot of like, this is not how it's supposed to go. Or like, you know, people they're gonna talk about you behind your back in your face too. It's how people are because it's new. It's like, why is she stopping her life to take care of herself right now?
Yep.
You know, like right now with me, I work part-time with the VA. And my mom was like, why are you leaving this full-time job to work part-time and earn less money? I'm like, well, I have to. I can't be there full-time. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I am drained. I am so drained from that job. So I work there part-time now. But my parents were just like, girl, this is not good for your benefits, your retirement, all these things. That's no, ma'am. I know what I can and can't do and how I want to feel every single day. And this
Yo,
job is not the part of my self-care plan. So it has to change. So I
that's
changed
so
it.
good.
I work part-time now. I get
That's
talked
so
about, I
good.
get judged for it, but
Yeah,
I know
and
how
it's
I
okay.
feel. And so to change those generational, I guess, thinking patterns and thoughts, you have to kind of be the quote unquote the change you want to see. You got to just kind of do what you have to do for yourself and
Yeah,
ignore all the outside talk because they're gonna talk about you regardless. That's just
that's
how people
real. And in doing so, you create space for those to come behind you and honestly ahead of you, right? Because they'll get it later. When in 3 years, when they look and see how much your life has evolved and your happiness, etc. But the ones coming behind you, they won't even have to make the mistakes we made the first time, and they just thrive earlier, right? Their whole earlier. That's a bar. I want to thank you, Dr. Denise, so much. Everyone, she has a workbook for you. Go to blazevirtualsummit.com/freebies and get her workbook. Lots of gems. I'm so sorry that we couldn't hear from you directly because you gave so much good information, and we're so grateful, Dr. Denise. Thank you for edifying us. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for caring about us. And Crystal, thank you for being ready on the go. Gang. What up, Blaze? Come on. That was so helpful, sis. Of course. And everyone, the DJ set is about to start. So get ready to get your swerve on. We got baby vibes coming. And then we'll have a panel discussion on women's leadership development. We getting into it, and we'll have some international perspectives on that. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all in a minute.
All right, thanks y'all. Bye.
Bye.